Howdy YouTube, it's me, your favourite friendly local neighbourhood Sam, posting a new YouTube video for the first time in a long time. And I'm just giving everyone an update on where I'm at. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, blah blah, another self-development snivel, if you will. So, on that count, let me give you an update on everything that's going on. Right now, I am my age, 26, living alone in Loughborough with 2 cats. My family are out of town, my dad's at work, my mum's in North Wales, my sister's in Brighton. My friends are off doing their own thing. For all intents and purposes over the next couple of days, I am home alone under my own impetus, and I couldn't be happier. My goals right now are clearer, the resources that I have are considerable, and I feel bold and satisfied enough within myself to make a new step into my future. So, first and foremost, Cancer Boy, let's say the alter ego that I've fashioned over the past couple of years, has become irrelevant for myself. From all available perspectives that I can view, my tumour has become a non-entity. Sure, there are occasional flare-ups, there are occasional achy pains, but they're diminishing, they're going away. I believe that, for myself, anyway, any residual effects can be affected by a change in attitude and a change in direction purely of my own impetus. I can do that. And I feel right now I can turn over a new page. I can draw a line in my personal history and say, everything that has come before doesn't have to affect the future in any way. I feel that for many people, certainly in their early 20s, they're like leaves in the wind, and they're left with no real power to affect the outcomes of their lives. They have to deal with bills, they have to deal with work. I've been afforded this window of time to effectively change my destiny and to fashion it in the way that I see fit. Not many of you have that available to you, not many of you have the resources available, but I've been quietly assembling those resources and those individuals for quite a while, and I know that any path that I may take could lead me down a very productive, a very healthy, very, very fortunate lifestyle for myself, if I act now. But there are a few issues that I want to raise in relation to that. Secondly, I guess, I've noticed in my cultural landscape, things have taken a turn for the depressing, the dark and the bleak, and in a different kind of way. Many of my childhood heroes have disappointed, have let me down in many ways. They have not carried forward the same torch, the same banner of optimism. And if they have, they've done it to the point where the very things that they stood for, the very attributes and qualities that I deem to be so important in them, have essentially declared their irrelevancy. The center of power, the balance of power has, and is now continuing to, particularly in the larger arena, is shifting forever. So I can tell that there have been numerous times in my life where that's happened. When I was growing up in the late 80s and the 90s, I was introduced to a world that really reflected my inner brightness in a really powerful way. I was a big science fiction geek, and I loved then, and I still do love, ideas, optimism, technology, and how this acted as a mirror and a focusing lens for my own joy and excitement towards life. Let's take a good example. The movie Short Circuit was a childhood favourite of mine, and I view that film with a great deal of happiness. Same with other films like Flight of the Navigator, Explorers. I'm pretty sure many of you remember those kind of films as being just wonderful films for kids to watch, because they tapped into the beauty and the excitement, and that will bring back a huge wave of nostalgia. I remember being quite happy when Super 8 came out, because it acted like a kind of cultural lens for me to relive that nostalgia with a great deal of verve a great deal of hope, I suppose, that that kind of lens would be presented to me in the future. But things have changed. Things have changed very much. Things aren't the Star Trek sci-fi utopia that I hope they might be. And having to deal with the huge challenges that I've had to deal with, and some of them that I still do, namely the main one I have is financial, that life is going to be very, very different. Life is going to be very, very different indeed. I mean, let's take an example for myself. Mentally, I developed a kind of systematic reverse engineering approach to every goal I set in my life. I wrote it all down. I wanted to accumulate an idea of perfection. Well, you know what they say about the road to hell, paved with good intentions. And that blossomed up into something very quickly, which was not only unrealistic, but impossible to achieve in maybe even 10 lifetimes, let alone one. So there are limits to everything that is set into motion by the mind of man. And you got to know that, your time to quit. You got to know when to leave. You got to know when to cut your losses and walk away. Because my own weird autistic OCD info fix perfection is useful only to a point, at the point of my own definition. And individually, that's been the case for me. As I'm growing up, facing the challenges, realizing that many of the things I thought were sacrosanct are degrading. Friends will leave you. Lovers betray you. Ideologies break down. Society seems to be breaking down on a quite fundamental level for many people. And it's very tempting to want to view the past with rose-tinted spectacles. But we can't do that. I have to view things a little more objectively if we're going to be effective. But that inner spirit that we all carry, those great inner memories, we have to see how far and how much panache and concentration and determination we can bring those energies to affect our lives in the future. Let's take one of the cultural, abortions, I guess, that I see on the main stage. Miley Cyrus's twerking. It shows to me, I never really believed in the idea of society in and of itself. I see individuals trying to get along, not having any idea about where they're going, trying to piece together their lives and their directions, so to give them a sense of personal power. But society in and of itself is essentially a giant mirror, and again a giant lens, for processing the core issues around our own base instincts. All of the talking points that you might see in the mainstream media are essentially, oftentimes, based around very, very childish and very dualistic approaches to whether something is right or wrong. And this is a talking point. This way of debating talking points is really the only way that we can really identify with dealing with things as a cultural societal unit on a large scale. How do we deal with sexting, porn, raising children, or how consumption is essentially being threatened in the face of global warming or peak oil, or now, the other enemy, fiat currency meltdown? It's not just ecological, it's not just energetic, now it's economic as well. And any one of these things break, it could lead to systematic meltdown of any of the others. So we're walking around in a walking daze. No one really understands. No one really understands what's going on. So for myself, I completely removed myself from this process quite a long time ago. And I'm happy to be not quite within normal society or normal culture, but to be lingering on the outside with a notepad. And I found to myself that perfection has to be defined for yourself, written down and followed every day, and adjusted and calibrated to situations according to how you deem fit. So therefore, I have always championed a very strong individualism, a very strong questioning attitude, almost a contrarian attitude, but even that becomes something on which the mind can regurgitate and run like a program. It's not particularly conducive to real creativity now, is it? So I'm on my own now, age 26, and as I get older, I can foresee, unless I act in a very specific way opposed to the cultural trend, I see certain things happening. I see myself potentially getting into a bad relationship. I see myself being swamped under the good intentions of my work. I see myself wasting too much time debating around what the culture is saying instead of allowing myself to be an engine for my own creativity and my own fulfillment. I foresee a very specific kind of perfection, one that is realistic and attainable, one that actually is based around positive action. So there are a few pointers that I want to raise for you and to you that can help you clarify your own position in life. Firstly, it's about you. Your life is your own. It's not about other people. Your body and your perspective and the two eyes and the two ears that you view life from are yours until the day you die, unless someone chops them off or makes you blind. It's basically your perspective is the most immediate sector of your existence. Quoth Terence McKenna. And don't worry about what anyone else is saying. Therefore, I guess a certain kind of hermit-like existence is helpful for a while to really ground you within that. But there are certain things that you can view from a more removed, distant kind of glance at the kind of societal tapestry, madman behavior. You can see things very clearly in the sense that short-term gain, in the means that media, advertising, corporations tend to trumpet via promotion of their product, it leads to long-term loss. Unless you have a long-term strategy to predict certain things, then you will probably witness a very similar path to many of the individuals around you that you swore you would never turn out like. Your best friend getting married, having a shitty marriage, or getting divorced, or getting fat, or losing his job. There are ways to proactively act so in which these things never have to bother you and will never get in the way. But it's difficult. Addicts resist being removed from their dependence. They resist not only being removed from external, like modification or external change, but also internal change. There is a tremendous stubbornness in the mind to resist any kind of long-term pattern change. Read a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. It goes into this with great, very ruthless cutting attitude, with wonderful prose. Highly recommend you read it. So from this position of independence, from this position of knowing that you must change to reach the success that you know you are capable of, the success that I honestly believe that you deserve, as being a creature self-aware and free to make your own choices within the Western world or wherever you may be, then I believe it is the most important thing for you to act within that base of power. And from that perspective, within your own two eyes, your own two ears, nearly everything is unimportant. Nearly everything. I have structured my life in my house so that everything around me is designed for practical use within a project that I already set up. Without that, it's irrelevant. There's a certain aesthetic value to things I enjoy, but I've noticed that aesthetic value only lasts for maybe 2 weeks. And then the novelty wears off and it has to be replaced. So nearly everything is unimportant. If you want things to truly reflect your core joy as part of your spirit, make sure that you're moving practically and updating as best as you can within your power the life that you have to reflect that. That is your power, that is your choice. And unfortunately, much of it is dictated from within the realms of consumption. But also, I am a strong believer in spiritual laws and manifestation, and I believe that you have the power to produce anything that you see, anything that you can imagine can be yours. So let's think about things from that position first and foremost. I mean, truth destroys, and from this attitude, you will be finding that you have to eliminate many of the external elements, many of the internal elements. And the best way of making this a solid real-world experience is by finding your heart and building a reminder system to enter you within the deepest part of yourself as often as you can. And when you finally sit within that place, that base of awareness, that inner coremost drive, then it is a lot easier to dictate the course of outcomes, like little and large, with a consistent, persistent approach. but you have to beware the information that you receive and beware its consequences. You have to critically think and test everything for yourself. You have to be persistent because things take time. Yet that time will pass anyway, so if it is truly what you want, continue to move forward. Fill up every drop for yourself first, because things will get in your way. A lot of being an adult is having to deal with bullshit, having to deal with your dreams being basically whittled down to a small nub by basically the obligations that you receive from everyday life, and having to deal with your subconscious mind and your subconscious drives and your cravings pulling your strings. And perhaps the one that is the most pernicious, the one that is most insidious, are the negative attacks you receive from your dark side. Your pain body attacks, your self-importance, things that you cannot allow yourself to feed into. You have to refuse that attention, you have to refuse the rage and the anger, and continue to move forward on your highest excitement for yourself, by yourself, if you can. Full independence and full hermit attitude is not something that I particularly recommend unless you've got about 10 years of practice, like I have. But for those of you that do, consider yourself in a good position, because you know what's best for yourself. Remember that persistent attitude, persistent action along your highest excitement, taking responsibility, writing things down, moving, calibrating, and habitualizing new habit patterns, and exercising action on whatever to-do list you may have at hand is a very strong, healthy attitude. Perhaps the strongest and healthiest attitude I have found is the one that ultimately I find myself in, which is why I feel pretty chuffed right now. And when you reach a point where there is perhaps one final push required, understand that one more degree of effort at the right time will do the job. The one more degree of effort, it will require that you literally push yourself beyond what you feel you are capable to exercise. But once you do, you find that you might very well break through that glass ceiling and find yourself in an entirely new world. And if you complete that circuit, complete that cycle for yourself in the age of paranoia, separation, segregation, banality, brutality, duality, information poisoning, and just general confusion as we enter this new age of awareness, then you will be very happy with yourself, because ultimately being a self-made man is the only thing that you as an individual truly have. That's what you've got. You have the ability to make yourself, to define yourself, and see the universe reflected through your own eyes. Wherever you choose to get this information, whatever belief system you choose to engage in, as long as there's no negative feedback upon another person, I personally have no interest in disallowing your action. Go for it. Do it. So, a couple of helpful things you can do, just a random spiel of advice. I guess that was all this video is really intended to be. But there are lots of other fun things that you can do once you reach that kind of zenith, that kind of end point. And the end point is really just a shooting off point to somewhere else. So be outside the system. Become an autodidact in subjects. I've noticed there are about 10 or 15 very good online schools that can teach you to a degree level in virtually any subject imaginable. That's a wonderful, wonderful resource to be able to have. Build your body. There's an assumption in society that health decreases as you get older, whereas I have seen people in their 50s and their 60s who basically look almost as good as they did when they were 40, according to the pictures that they put up. And some might call that Photoshop. I call that good diet and exercise and positive mental attitude. Yeah, your health can increase as you get older. Practice critical thinking. Exercise your freedom. Your choices are yours, as long as they don't destroy the foundation on which that freedom is based. For yourself and others, why the hell not? Integrate and move forward and upwards. How does this look like on the career path for someone like me? Let's say I reach my financial goals by the age I'm 30. Let's say I have 2 businesses essentially running automatically, basically pouring a certain amount into my cash flow so that I've taken care of all my ingoings and outgoings automatically and am able to basically travel the world and do whatever I want to with the income that I've now received. how would I then seek to progress forward? I will build a social base of people who knew me and trusted me, of warrior-minded people who were practically minded, who knew what to do with themselves. I would use videos like this as a calling card to invite them into my circle, and then we would mastermind on various areas of our life. And we would continue to build up until the point when maybe there would be some kind of downward spiral. I don't know. I think technology is improving, particularly in areas of health, to the point where that actually may not even be a factor, where aging may become less and less of a factor as time progresses. So I'm looking forward to that happening. I think that would be a really interesting thing. Once you've built your self-management, your mindset, your mental abilities, and your health and your fitness to a solid level, and you have your finances solid for yourself. This is all being by yourself, by the way. And you're traveling around the world with the people that you love. Then perhaps I would consider maybe bringing a lover into my life, or one, or two, whatever. This is your choice. If you believe it is possible to find the people who echo your most deepest, most inner beliefs about a certain subject or a certain area, then you can find them and introduce them into your personal circle, and you can live the life that you want to for yourself. And it doesn't need to be some grand, absolute perfection overture, but it can be satisfying and fulfilling on a degree that you never thought possible. And things can continue to spiral upwards. So, your mind and your body and your finances and your social life are all set up. You can continue to allow those things to build and feed back into your creativity, which can then feed back over various distribution channels like YouTube to fulfill the world. I'm looking to produce all my own work as a multi-instrumentalist, as a writer, producer, and performer of all my own work across many different instruments in basically a community kind of outlook to bring many people in. You've probably seen those split screen videos where 4 or more people will contribute on a song, or in the same way. That, I believe, will be a fundamental thing for me going forward. And okay, so there's the creative side also dealt with, and finally the spiritual side as well. The spiritual side. And as I've mentioned before, I believe there are degrees of moral truth and aesthetic beauty and social practicality inherent within every religion, but also a great deal of brainwashing. So pick and choose for yourself what, if depending on your own spiritual path, or if you're an atheist, I guess just a purely academic study if you're interested in these kinds of things, and find a path for yourself as you have that freedom, and see what kind of practical good you can get out of it. For me, this was new spirituality light work with an element of basically integral thinking and Toltec shamanism blended together, and that was basically my way of doing things. And general radical independence, radical self-reliance as well. And generally, I think these things can eventually accumulate around you to the point where, even if you do experience a kind of a physical decline or a mental decline, I believe that you can continue to find value just in and of yourself as an independent individual, critical thinker, who can basically is fluid enough to change mind and change perspectives in the moment according to the situations you find yourself in. You will find yourself moving fluidly with the flow. There will be minimal resistance, zero resistance to your life. And this flow, this creative flow, this financial flow, the mental, physical, and spiritual and emotional and social flow can be the gift that you give to other people. That base of energy and personal power can become something, and I guess it's an intangible energy that demonstrates itself through many forms. It can become something which is your gift to other people. And this is the final step. You can build structures, you can build systems, businesses, charities, whatever structure you see fit to put around your life's work. Then this can be the thing that you can give back to the next generation and help them lead lives of even greater mental, physical, spiritual, creative, financial, and social freedom. True freedom. Not the right to go insane, as what it seems to have become for many. So, I guess this is a motivational tract. I guess this is something that can help a lot of people continue to post forward. I mean, a lot of motivational material, it wears out its welcome after a while, because I guess your mind will see what the other person is saying coming. You've heard it before, I guess. So there needs to be constant reinforcement, fresh reinforcement from all the sources available that you can find. And this, for me, is basically why I choose to do these things now. I mean, it's not about me. I have a very, very specific definition of freedom and perfection for myself that I am now seeking to follow on my own. And I'm happy for that. I'm very happy for that. And I see great things happening. I do see there being a kind of ultimate goal in every area of life that one can shoot for. And there's a few of them: management, mindset, ability, academic studies, health, fitness, athletics, practical spirituality, self-sufficiency, music and art, general creativity, finance, technology, your social life, and materials. Or in my case, the one material that I wanted was a really amazing house. You know, the dream house, particular aesthetic goal. So, just to recap, it's okay to be on your own and make your own decisions. In fact, it's all you've got. Practice critical thinking. Continue to boost every area of your life. Write it down. Set time-bound goals. Go after them. And ignore the negative feedback that the world might choose to put down on you. That world is sterile and it's decrepit. It's not going to help you get where you want to go. In fact, it will get in your way. Create your own world. Pull others into that. You are the creator of your own destiny. Always become your best self. When you have arrived to a satisfying peak, stay there. Keep developing mentally. Hell, I'd go back to school and learn more and build structures with which to edify the next generation. You don't have to go to school, get a job, and basically become a broodmare for the state, as quoth Carlin. So, that path is dead. There's a new path emerging. Self-education, self-financing through entrepreneurship, and your own social networks, constructing your own social networks proactively through information. And this is what this channel is going to be. It's what it's going to become from now on. It's going to become a regular journal for me to talk to you about my endeavors. You might not hear from me for a while. I'm going to be very, very busy. But I honestly, really objectively looking at things, despite all the crazy that's happening in the world, crazy always happens in a world where people are free to make their own choices. But that said, I wouldn't have it any other way. This is the most interesting, exciting time in human history, and I'm glad to be a part of it. So, until next time, my YouTube friends, thanks for sharing the journey with me. Peace out.